Good evening from New York, folks. We're diving into some heavy news tonight. Remember that controversy that unfolded at the Milwaukee courthouse?
Yep, I remember. The dramatic arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan, right?
Exactly. So we've got hundreds of protesters outside the courthouse in Milwaukee, all fired up about the recent actions by the Trump administration. It's
Right.
really an event that's more than just about one courtroom incident.
Absolutely. It seems like the arrest was intended to send a message beyond this single case.
Yeah, it's like a warning shot to judges across the country, especially those who have been ruling against certain policies that,
Yeah. And
challenge the administration's agenda. They're not just targeting a singular act, but trying to intimidate the whole judiciary.
right. And that tactic of making an example of Judge Dugan, who's been on the bench for 9 years, adds to the shock factor.
Exactly. And let's not forget the details. Picture this. During a courtroom session arraigning Eduardo Flores Ruiz on domestic violence charges, ICE
Yeah, indeed.
agents eyed him, and then the judge, who allegedly escorted him out, ended up being arrested in broad daylight outside the courthouse.
Yep. And the whole scene sounded more like a theatrical setup than a standard legal procedure.
Right. It's like, imagine your local coffee shop turning into a surprise stage play where you're suddenly the main act, but not in a
I
good
see that.
way. The FBI's operation, complete with a parking lot arrest, was clearly, meant to intimidate other judges.
And the administration wasn't subtle at all, right? I mean, there was a lot of propaganda messaging bundled with this move.
Yeah, absolutely. While the FBI and DOJ insisted that no one is above the law, the real underlying message was to warn any judicial dissent. You had former statements, Trump's inner circle, and even, remember, posts on Trump TV that framed this as a crackdown on judges who dared to go against their policies.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the whole extra controversy over that directive from Pam Bondi regarding warrantless searches under the 1794 Alien Enemies Act. It sounded crazy, right?
Totally. It's like they're saying, hey, if you're targeting someone, forget the Fourth Amendment. We're on a war footing.
Yeah, indeed.
Just imagine cops raining down on you if they suspect you're a gang member from a barely known group.
Right. And that kind of power grab makes you wonder about how much the administration is really willing to jeopardize constitutional rights for political gain.
Exactly. It feels like the tactic isn't just about enforcing immigration laws, but about creating an environment of fear amongst public officials.
Absolutely true. I mean, think about it. If judges start feeling intimidated, then who's going to stand up for due process and the rule of law?
Right, and that's where Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley's comments come in. He stressed that while no one is above the law, no one should, be stripped of legal protections either. Crowley
Yeah,
highlighted that
exactly.
turning courthouses into intimidation centers jeopardizes community safety.
Yeah, he mentioned that if undocumented folks and witnesses are too scared to walk into a courthouse, it really puts our public safety at risk.
Precisely, it disrupts trust in the justice system. And while the administration argues it's about law and order, the action reeks more like a political power play against judges who may not toe the line.
Spot on. But, I have to wonder, don't you think sometimes the message about law enforcement overreach is a bit exaggerated?
Well, that's a good point. But when you see the FBI pulling a full-scale arrest of a judge right in the parking lot, it becomes hard to dismiss it as mere routine.
Yeah, I get that.
It's an escalatory move, one that's difficult to square with the usual practices we expect in judicial proceedings.
Absolutely. It's a significant departure from standard protocol. And the fact that these tactics are being deployed alongside controversial directives like that warrantless search memo, it's worrying, right?
Definitely. It's like saying we're ready to bypass legal norms entirely if it means hitting our political targets.
Yeah,
So it's not just about one event. It's part of what critics call a systemic undermining of judicial independence.
for sure. And history shows us that when one branch of government gets too aggressive, especially with such symbolic actions, it rattles the very balance of democracy.
Absolutely. and Crowley's remarks drive that home. He stressed that our democracy relies on the equilibrium of all three branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial.
Yeah, exactly.
When that balance tips, we're in serious trouble.
And it's not merely about one case either. There have been other high-profile investigations, like those involving figures who have challenged the administration's narrative.
Right. Remember the cases of Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs? Those investigations, too, seem to parallel a broader strategy of using law enforcement as a tool for political retribution.
Very true. That's the problem. It undermines our confidence in the impartiality of the legal system.
Exactly. When politicians start treating the judiciary like a personal adversary, then the autonomy of our court system is at risk.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it seems like the message is plain and direct. Cross us and you're next.
Precisely. And while some argue that no one should be above the law, it's critical to ensure that the law isn't bent into a tool for political intimidation.
Absolutely. It's a slippery slope. If judges begin feeling threatened, then essential checks and balances might crumble.
Right, which is why protecting due process isn't just a legal necessity, it's a cornerstone of our democratic ethos. The events in Milwaukee are a stark reminder of that.
So, to wrap things up, it seems like this whole debacle isn't confined to a single courthouse or a single judge. It's a manifestation of larger, concerning trends in how power is being exercised in our government.
Yes, indeed. It's a blend of political theater and actual legal overreach, both of which put our constitutional protections at risk.
Right. And while reactions like those from David Crowley offer some reassurance that not everyone is accepting these moves silently, it still leaves us with major questions about our democratic future.
Exactly. It's a clarion call for those who believe in judicial independence and the balance of power. We need to keep an eye on these developments and ensure our rights are upheld.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, as the public becomes more aware of these power plays, there will be a collective pushback against such tactics.
Let's hope so. We must remember that, at the end of the day, the stability of our legal system, and by extension, our democracy, depends on maintaining that balance in power.
Exactly. Thanks for the deep dive into this complex issue. It certainly gives us a lot to think about.
Absolutely. And we'll be keeping our eyes peeled as things continue to unfold. Stay engaged and stay informed, everyone.